I'm Max Carter, 12 years old, living in a cramped apartment in Chicago with my mom, Clara Carter, my sister Lily, who's 10, and my little brother Tim, who's 5. Mom's 38, a single mother ever since Dad walked out on us 3 years ago for some woman he met at a bar downtown. I can still picture that day, his suitcase in hand, his back to us as he left without a word, leaving Mom crying on the couch, her hands covering her face like she could hide from the pain. She promised us she'd be enough, that she'd take care of us, that we'd be okay no matter what happened. I believed her back then, trusted her with everything I had, because she was all we had left. But I don't believe her anymore. I can't. Not after what I've seen, what I've heard, what I know now. It all started a few months ago, the first crack in the wall of trust I'd built around her. She'd leave us at night, saying she had to work a late shift at the diner where she waitressed, a small place on the corner of Clark Street that smelled like grease and coffee. She'd kiss us on the forehead, her lips cold, and tell us to be good, to go to bed on time, to not wait up for her. Then she'd lock the door behind her, the click echoing in the quiet apartment, and she'd be gone. But I started noticing things, small things at first, things that didn't add up. Her perfume was too strong for a diner shift, a heavy floral scent that made my nose itch, not the kind of thing you'd wear to serve coffee to truck drivers. Her lipstick was too bright, a deep red that stained her coffee mug, not the faded pink she used to wear. Her dresses were too tight, hugging her body in a way that made her look like she was going somewhere else, somewhere she didn't want us to know about. I knew something was wrong, felt it in my gut, the way you feel a storm coming before the sky even darkens, before the first drop of rain falls. One night, I decided I couldn't ignore it anymore. I stayed up, pretending to sleep on the couch while Lily and Tim were in their room, their soft snores filling the air. I heard Mom on the phone, her voice low, almost a whisper, but I could still make out the words. She was giggling, a sound I hadn't heard since Dad was around, a sound that made my stomach twist into knots. "I'll meet you at the bar on Lincoln Avenue," she said, her tone light, playful, like she was someone else entirely. "Don't be late." Lincoln Avenue was nowhere near the diner. It was on the other side of the city, a place full of bars and clubs, not the kind of place you'd go for a late shift. My heart started pounding, my hands clenching into fists as I lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of it. I waited until she left, her heels clicking down the hallway, the sound fading as she stepped outside. I crept to the window, pulling the curtain aside just enough to see her. She got into a cab, her hair catching the streetlight as she smiled at her reflection in a compact mirror, adjusting her lipstick like she was getting ready for something important. She didn't look like a mom going to work. She looked like a woman going on a date, someone who didn't have 3 kids waiting at home, someone who didn't care. I sat there for hours, my eyes glued to the clock on the wall, the seconds ticking by like they were mocking me. My mind raced, questions piling up, each one heavier than the last. Who was she meeting? Why was she lying to us? Was this the first time, or had she been doing this for months, maybe even years? I thought about Dad, how he'd betrayed us, how he'd left us without a second thought, and now Mom was doing the same, in her own way. I felt a cold anger settle in my chest, a weight I couldn't shake, a fire that wouldn't go out. When she came back at 2 a.m., her lipstick smudged, her eyes glassy from drinking, I pretended to be asleep, my body still, my breathing even. She didn't even check on us, didn't peek into our rooms to see if we were okay. She just stumbled to her room, her laughter echoing in the dark, and closed the door behind her. I lay there, my eyes half open, staring at the ceiling, knowing something had to change. I couldn't let her keep doing this to us, couldn't let her keep lying, keep leaving us like we didn't matter. I had to find out the truth, no matter what it cost me, no matter how much it hurt. I started watching her more closely after that, noticing the little things she tried to hide, the way she'd glance at her phone and smile, the way she'd rush out the door without looking back. I knew I needed proof, something solid I could hold onto, something she couldn't deny when I confronted her. I decided to use her old phone, the one she kept in the junk drawer, to record her. I'd hide it in her purse, catch her in the act, hear the truth for myself. I didn't know what I'd do with the evidence yet, but I knew I needed it. For Lily, for Tim, for me. I couldn't let her keep betraying us, couldn't let her keep choosing someone else over her own kids. I went to bed that night, my heart pounding, my mind racing, knowing tomorrow I'd have answers. I didn't sleep. I just lay there, thinking about what I'd do if I was right, if Mom was really doing what I thought she was. I thought about how I'd make her pay, how I'd make her see what she was doing to us, how I'd make her feel the same pain we felt. I didn't know how yet, but I knew I would. I had to. The next morning, I waited until Mom left for her actual shift at the diner, the one I knew was real because I'd called the diner once to check her schedule. Lily and Tim were at school, their backpacks bouncing as they ran to the bus stop, and I had the apartment to myself. I pulled the old phone from her purse, the one I'd hidden there the night before, my fingers trembling as I held it, knowing what I might find. I sat on the couch, the cushions sagging under me, and pressed play on the recording, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. At first, it was just noise, her heels clicking on the pavement, the hum of the cab engine, the radio playing some old song I didn't recognize. Then I heard her voice, soft and flirty, a tone I'd never heard her use with us, a tone that made my skin crawl. "I can't wait to see you, Dave," she said, her voice light, almost giddy, like she was a teenager on her first date. My stomach churned at the name. Dave. Who was Dave? I didn't know any Dave, and she'd never mentioned him, not once. The man on the other end laughed, his voice deep, rough, the kind of voice that sounded like it belonged to someone who smoked too much. "You're worth the wait, Clara," he said, and I could hear the smirk in his tone. "But I need a little something for the trouble." "You got the cash?" My breath caught in my throat, my hands tightening around the phone. Cash? What was he talking about? Mom's voice came again, hesitant but firm, like she'd made up her mind. "Yeah, I've got it," she said. 200, like we agreed. "Just don't tell anyone, okay?" I froze, my mind racing, my chest tight. $200? We barely had enough for rent, always scraping by, counting pennies to buy groceries. I remembered the times she said we couldn't afford new shoes for Tim, how his sneakers had holes in the toes, how Lily had to wear my old jacket to school because hers was too small, the sleeves barely reaching her wrists. I thought about the nights we'd gone to bed hungry, splitting a can of soup 3 ways because there wasn't enough for more. And here she was, giving $200 to some guy named Dave? I stopped the recording, my hands shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone, my vision blurring as I stared at the wall. I couldn't believe it, didn't want to believe it, but I'd heard it with my own ears. I forced myself to keep listening, pressing play again, needing to know more, needing to understand. I heard them talk about meeting at a motel on the edge of the city, a place called the Blue Star Inn, the kind of place I'd seen on the news, where people went for things they didn't want anyone to know about. Dave called her baby, his voice low, and she laughed, a sound that made my stomach turn. They talked about what they'd do when they got there, things I didn't want to hear, things I couldn't unhear. I stopped the recording again, my hands clammy, my heart racing. It was clear now. Mom wasn't just meeting men. She was paying them, or they were paying her, I couldn't tell which, and I didn't want to think about it too hard. All I knew was that she was leaving us alone, lying to us, while she went off to live a life we weren't part of, a life she cared about more than us. I sat there for a long time, the phone in my lap, my mind spinning, trying to make sense of it all. I thought about confronting her, storming into her room when she got home, playing the recording for her, watching her face as she realized I knew everything. But I didn't. I couldn't. Not yet. I needed more proof, needed to know how deep this went, how many men she was seeing, how long she'd been doing this. I started checking her phone whenever I could, memorizing her passcode, Lily's birthday, 0410. I'd wait until she was in the shower or asleep, then I'd sneak into her room, my hands steady as I scrolled through her messages. I found dozens of them, from different guys: Dave, Tony, a guy named Chris, another named Mark. Some messages were flirty, full of winking emojis and heart eyes, things that made me feel sick. Others were straight to the point, talking about money, about meeting up, about what they'd do when they were alone. I took screenshots of everything, saving them on the old phone, building my evidence piece by piece. I didn't know what I'd do with it yet, but I knew I needed it, knew I had to have something she couldn't deny, something that would make her face the truth. I started noticing how often she left us, how it wasn't just Fridays anymore. It was Tuesdays, Thursdays, sometimes even Sundays, days she used to spend with us, watching movies or playing board games. She'd say she had a double shift, her voice casual, like it was no big deal, but I knew better now. I'd hear her come home late, her voice slurred from drinking, her laughter echoing in the hallway as she stumbled to her room. She thought we were asleep, but I wasn't. I was always awake, listening, waiting, planning. I thought about Lily and Tim, how they didn't deserve this, how they still looked at Mom like she was their hero, the one who'd always be there for them. I didn't want to break that for them, didn't want to shatter their world the way mine had been shattered, but I couldn't let her keep doing this. I had to protect them, even if it meant hurting them first, even if it meant they'd hate me for it. I decided I needed to tell someone who could help, someone who'd make Mom stop. I thought about Grandma, Mom's mom, who lived in Milwaukee, a few hours away. She'd always been strict, always told Mom she needed to be better for us, to put us first. I knew she'd be furious if she found out what Mom was doing, knew she'd do something about it. I decided to send her everything I had, the recordings, the screenshots, the proof of Mom's lies. I'd write her a letter, explain everything, and mail it from school, using the last of my lunch money for the stamp. I didn't tell Lily or Tim what I was doing. I couldn't. They wouldn't understand, wouldn't see why I had to do this. But I knew Grandma would. I knew she'd come for us, knew she'd make things right. I just had to wait, had to keep pretending everything was fine, had to keep watching Mom, listening to her lies, until the time was right. I kept the old phone hidden under my mattress, checking it every night to make sure the evidence was still there, that I hadn't imagined it all. I didn't tell anyone what I'd found, not even Lily, who started asking why I was so quiet all the time, her big brown eyes searching mine for answers. I told her I was just tired, that school was hard, but she didn't believe me. She'd always been good at reading me, better than Mom ever was, better than I wanted her to be. I couldn't let her know, couldn't let her see how much I was hurting, how much I hated Mom for what she was doing. Mom kept leaving us, her excuses getting weaker, her lies more obvious. "I've got a late shift," she'd say, her voice flat, or "I'm meeting a friend from work," as if we'd believe her. I didn't bother calling her out, didn't let her see the anger in my eyes. I just nodded, watching her put on her makeup, her hands steady as she applied eyeliner, her lips curling into a smile as she looked at herself in the mirror, like she was someone else, someone who didn't have 3 kids waiting at home. She didn't see me watching, didn't see the way my fists clenched, the way my jaw tightened, the way I wanted to scream at her, to make her stop. I hated her in those moments, hated her more than I'd ever hated Dad, more than I'd ever hated anyone. At least Dad had left, had made it clear he didn't want us. Mom was still here, pretending to care, pretending to be our mom, while she went off to live a life we weren't part of, a life she cared about more than us. I kept digging, kept looking for more evidence, needing to know everything, needing to have enough to make her face the truth. I'd sneak into her room when she was asleep, her phone on the nightstand, the screen lighting up with notifications from names I didn't recognize. I'd scroll through her messages, my heart pounding, my hands steady as I took screenshots, saving them on the old phone, adding to my collection. There was Dave, the guy from the recording, talking about meeting her again, asking for more money, calling her baby like it meant something. There was Tony, a guy who sent her pictures of himself, shirtless, his messages full of things I didn't want to read, things that made me feel sick. There was Chris, who talked about a bar downtown, about how much fun they'd had last time, about how he couldn't wait to see her again. There was Mark, who was more direct, talking about money, about what he'd do for her if she paid him, about keeping things quiet so no one would find out. I didn't know how many men there were, didn't know how long she'd been doing this, but I knew there'd be more, knew she wouldn't stop unless someone made her. I started keeping a journal, a small notebook I hid under my mattress with the phone, writing down every time she left, every lie she told, every name I found in her messages. I'd write the dates, the times, the excuses she used, the men she mentioned. I'd write down what I heard her say on the phone, her voice low, talking about money, about meeting up, about keeping things quiet so no one would know. I'd write down how I felt, the anger, the betrayal, the hurt, putting it all on paper so I wouldn't forget, so I'd have something to hold on to when the time came. I thought about the nights we'd gone to bed hungry, splitting a can of soup 3 ways because she said we couldn't afford more, and I wondered how much of that money went to her friends, how much she'd spent on them while we went without. I thought about the times she'd said she loved us, how she'd promised to always be there, and I wondered if she'd ever meant it, if she'd ever cared at all. I felt like I was drowning in my own anger, like it was swallowing me whole, but I couldn't let it out, not yet. I had to wait for Grandma, had to wait for her to get my letter, to see the evidence, to come for us. I kept up the act, pretending everything was fine, helping Lily with her homework, playing with Tim, making sure they didn't suspect anything, didn't see the storm brewing inside me. But it was hard, harder than I thought it would be. Every time Mom left, I'd feel that same cold anger, that same weight in my chest, that same need to make her pay. I'd sit by the window, watching the street below, waiting for her to come back, wondering who she was with, what she was doing, how she could do this to us. I'd imagine confronting her, showing her the recordings, the messages, watching her face as she realized I knew everything, as she realized she couldn't lie anymore. But I didn't. I couldn't. I had to wait, had to be patient, had to make sure I had everything I needed before I made my move. One night, she came home later than usual, her hair messy, her dress wrinkled, her makeup smudged. She didn't even try to be quiet, stumbling into the apartment, laughing to herself as she kicked off her shoes, her voice slurred from drinking. I was on the couch, pretending to sleep, but I saw her, saw the way she looked, the way she didn't care. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her I knew, to make her feel as small as I did, as betrayed as I felt. But I didn't. I just lay there, my eyes half open, watching her disappear into her room, the door closing behind her with a soft click. The next day, I got a letter from Grandma, a small envelope with her neat handwriting on the front. I opened it with shaking hands, my heart racing as I read the words. It was short, just a few lines, but it was enough. "I'm coming to Chicago, Max," she wrote. "I've seen everything. We'll take care of this." I felt a wave of relief, a weight lifting off my shoulders, but it was mixed with fear, with uncertainty. Grandma was coming. She'd make Mom pay, make her face what she'd done. I didn't know what she'd do, didn't know how it would all play out, but I knew it'd be big, knew it'd change everything. I hid the letter with the phone, my hands steady for the first time in weeks, a strange calm settling over me. I knew the end was near, knew I just had to keep pretending, keep waiting, keep watching, until Grandma got here. Grandma showed up on a Tuesday, her old station wagon pulling up outside our building, the engine rumbling as she parked. I saw her from the window, my heart racing as I watched her climb out, her gray hair tied back in a tight bun, her face set in a hard line, her eyes sharp and determined. She didn't call ahead, didn't warn us she was coming, didn't give Mom a chance to prepare. She just came, her steps slow but steady as she climbed the stairs to our apartment. I knew why she was here, knew what she'd seen, what I'd sent her. I'd mailed her everything, the recordings, the screenshots, the proof of Mom's lies, the evidence of what she'd been doing while we were left alone, while she went off with men, paying them, taking their money, living a life we weren't part of. I opened the door before she could knock, my hands sweaty, my heart pounding in my chest, a mix of relief and fear washing over me. She didn't say much at first, just looked at me, her eyes searching mine, like she was trying to see how much this had hurt me, how much I'd changed. "You did the right thing, Max," she said finally, her voice low, steady, the kind of voice that made you feel safe, even when everything else was falling apart. She stepped inside, her bag slung over her shoulder, and sat on the couch, her hands folded in her lap, her posture stiff. I sat across from her, the old phone in my hands, ready to show her more if she needed it, ready to play the recordings again, to let her hear Mom's voice, her lies, her betrayal. But she didn't ask. She'd seen enough, heard enough, knew enough to know what had to be done. She told me she'd called a lawyer on the way, an old friend from Milwaukee who specialized in family law, someone she trusted to handle this, to make sure we were safe. "Your mother's not fit to raise you," she said, her voice cold, her words cutting through the air like a knife. "Not after what she's done, not after what she's been doing to you kids." I nodded, my throat tight, my eyes burning with tears I didn't want to let fall. I'd known Mom was wrong, had known it for months, but hearing Grandma say it, hearing her confirm what I'd been feeling, made it real, too real. I didn't want to cry, didn't want to show how much this hurt, but I couldn't help it. A few tears slipped down my cheeks, and I wiped them away quickly, hoping Grandma didn't notice. She stayed the whole day, sitting on the couch, waiting for Mom to come home, her presence a quiet strength in the apartment. I stayed with her, not saying much, just watching the clock, counting the minutes until Mom walked through the door, until everything changed. When Mom finally came home, her apron still on from the diner, her face tired, her hair messy, she froze at the sight of Grandma, her eyes widening, her mouth opening in shock. "What are you doing here, Mom?" she asked, her voice shaking, her hands clutching the strap of her purse like it was a lifeline. Grandma didn't answer right away, just stood up, her hands on her hips, her eyes locked on Mom, looking at her like she was a stranger, like she didn't recognize the woman standing in front of her. "I know what you've been doing, Clara," she said, her voice steady, unyielding. "Max told me everything, showed me everything." Mom's eyes darted to me, wide with shock, then back to Grandma, her face paling as she realized what was happening. "What are you talking about?" she said, her voice cracking, her hands trembling, but I knew she was lying, knew she was trying to play innocent, just like she always did. She always lied, always had an excuse, always thought she could talk her way out of anything. But not this time. Grandma didn't back down, didn't let her get away with it. She pulled out the letter I'd sent, the screenshots, the recordings, and laid them on the table, spreading them out like a map of Mom's betrayal, a map of all the ways she'd failed us. "You've been leaving my grandchildren alone while you go off with men, paying them, taking their money, doing God knows what," Grandma said, her voice rising, her anger spilling out. "You're done, Clara. You're not fit to be their mother." Mom's face crumpled, her eyes filling with tears, her hands shaking as she looked at the evidence, at the proof of her lies, her secrets, her betrayal. She tried to speak, to explain, to come up with another excuse, but Grandma cut her off, her voice sharp, final. "I'm taking the kids," she said. "You'll hear from my lawyer, and you'll stay away from them until this is settled." I watched Mom's face, watched the tears stream down her cheeks, watched her mouth open and close as she tried to find words, but I didn't feel sorry for her, didn't feel anything but that same cold anger, that same weight in my chest. She'd made her choice, had chosen those men over us, had chosen her lies over her own kids. Now she had to live with the consequences, had to face what she'd done. Grandma told me to pack a bag for me, Lily, and Tim, her voice calm but firm, leaving no room for argument. I did it quickly, my hands moving on autopilot, grabbing clothes, toothbrushes, Tim's favorite stuffed bear, the one he couldn't sleep without. I didn't look at Mom as I worked, didn't meet her eyes, didn't let her see the anger, the hurt, the betrayal I felt. I couldn't. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction, didn't want her to think she could fix this with tears, with apologies, with promises she'd never keep. She'd had her chance, had had 1,000 chances, and she'd thrown them all away. I packed our things, my hands steady, my mind focused, knowing this was the end, knowing we were leaving, knowing we'd never come back. We left that night, Grandma driving us to Milwaukee in her old station wagon, the engine rumbling as we pulled away from the apartment, from Chicago, from the life we'd known. Lily and Tim were in the back, their eyes wide, their voices soft as they asked where Mom was, why we were leaving, what was happening. I didn't have the heart to tell them the truth, didn't want to break their world the way mine had been broken. I just said we were going to stay with Grandma for a while, that Mom needed some time to herself, that everything would be okay. They didn't ask more, but I could see the worry in Lily's eyes, the way she held Tim's hand a little tighter, the way she looked at me like she knew I wasn't telling her everything. I sat in the front seat, staring out the window as the city lights faded into the dark, the skyline of Chicago disappearing behind us, replaced by the endless stretch of highway, the occasional glow of a gas station or a billboard. I thought about Mom, about the look on her face when Grandma confronted her, about the way she'd cried, the way she'd tried to explain herself, to make excuses, to pretend she hadn't done what we all knew she'd done. She didn't even fight for us, not really, didn't try to stop us from leaving, didn't beg us to stay. She just stood there, her hands covering her face, her sobs echoing in the apartment as we packed our things and walked out the door. I wondered if she'd try to call, if she'd try to get us back, if she'd even care that we were gone, but I didn't think she would. She'd made her choice, had chosen those men, that life, over us, and now she had to live with it, had to face the emptiness we'd left behind. Grandma didn't say much on the drive, her hands tight on the steering wheel, her jaw set, her eyes focused on the road ahead. I knew she was angry, not just at Mom, but at the whole situation, at the way things had turned out, at the way her daughter had failed her grandchildren, had failed her. She'd raised Mom better than this, she'd told me once, her voice full of regret, and I believed her. Grandma was strict, but she was fair, and she loved us in a way Mom never had, in a way Mom never could. I knew we'd be okay with her, knew she'd take care of us, even if it meant leaving everything behind, even if it meant starting over in a new city, a new home, a new life. When we got to Milwaukee, Grandma's house was small but warm, the kind of place that smelled like cookies and old books, the kind of place that felt safe, even when the world outside was falling apart. She set us up in the guest room, 3 small beds pushed together, the blankets soft, the pillows smelling like lavender. She told us to get some sleep, her voice gentle but firm, and I nodded, helping Lily and Tim into their beds, tucking them in, making sure they were okay. They fell asleep quickly, their breathing soft, their faces peaceful, but I couldn't sleep, couldn't close my eyes, couldn't stop thinking. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, the moonlight filtering through the curtains, casting shadows on the walls. I thought about Mom, about what she was doing now, about whether she even cared that we were gone, that we'd left her behind. I thought about the men she'd been with, the money she'd spent, the lies she'd told, the way she'd chosen them over us, over her own kids. I felt that same cold anger, that same weight in my chest, but it was different now, sharper, more focused. It wasn't just anger anymore. It was something else, something darker, something that made me want to hurt her, to make her feel what we felt, to make her lose what we'd lost. I didn't know how yet, didn't know what I'd do, but I knew I'd find a way, knew I'd make her pay for what she'd done, for leaving us, for betraying us, for breaking the promises she'd made. I thought about the recordings, the screenshots, the evidence I still had on the old phone, hidden under my mattress back in Chicago. I'd brought it with me, had made sure to pack it, knowing I'd need it, knowing I'd use it somehow. I didn't know what my next step would be, didn't know how I'd make her face the truth, but I knew I would, knew I had to. I couldn't let her get away with this, couldn't let her move on, couldn't let her pretend nothing had happened, that she hadn't destroyed us. I fell asleep eventually, my mind still racing, my dreams filled with Mom's face, her laughter, her lies, the sound of her voice on the recordings, the words I couldn't unhear. The next morning, Grandma sat us down at the kitchen table, a plate of pancakes in front of us, the smell of maple syrup filling the air. She told us we'd be staying with her for good, that she'd already talked to her lawyer, that Mom wouldn't be coming for us, that we were safe now. Lily cried, her shoulders shaking, her hands covering her face, and Tim looked confused, his eyes wide, his voice small as he asked why, as he asked where Mom was. I didn't cry, didn't let myself feel the sadness, the loss. I just nodded, my hands clenched in my lap, my jaw tight. I'd known this was coming, had known it from the moment I sent the letter, from the moment I decided to tell Grandma the truth. I'd made this happen, had set it all in motion, and I didn't feel guilty, not really. Mom had done this to herself, had made her choice, and now we were making ours. We were leaving her behind, starting over, building a new life without her, a life where we didn't have to wonder if she'd come home, if she'd lie to us, if she'd choose us. Life in Milwaukee was different, quieter, slower, a world away from the chaos of Chicago, from the nights I'd spent waiting for Mom to come home, wondering where she was, who she was with. Grandma enrolled us in a new school, a small one where the teachers knew everyone's name, where the kids were nice, where Lily and Tim could start over, could be kids again. They adjusted quickly, making friends, laughing again, their voices filling Grandma's house with a lightness I hadn't heard in months. Lily joined the art club, her drawings covering the fridge, bright colors and smiling faces that made Grandma smile. Tim started playing soccer, his little legs running across the field, his laughter echoing as he scored his first goal. They were happy, happier than they'd been in Chicago, happier than they'd been with Mom, and I was glad for that, glad they could move on, glad they could forget. But I couldn't. I couldn't stop thinking about Mom, couldn't stop wondering what she was doing, whether she missed us, whether she even cared that we were gone. Grandma said she hadn't called, hadn't even tried to reach out, hadn't sent a single letter or message to check on us, to see if we were okay. That made the anger in my chest grow, made it burn hotter, made it harder to ignore. I thought she'd fight for us, that she'd at least try, that she'd show some sign she cared, but she didn't. She just let us go, like we didn't matter, like we'd never mattered, like we were nothing to her. I started looking her up online, using Grandma's old computer when she wasn't around, when she was in the kitchen baking or out in the garden pulling weeds. I found her social media, her profile still active, her pictures still there, a window into the life she was living without us. She was back in Chicago, posting selfies at bars, smiling with men I didn't recognize, her arm around them, her head on their shoulders, her eyes bright with a happiness I'd never seen when she was with us. I saw her with a guy named Tony, the same Tony from her messages, his arm around her, her smile wide as she looked at him, like he was everything she'd ever wanted. She looked happy, happier than she'd ever been with us, happier than she'd been when we were a family, when we needed her, when we loved her. That made me sick, made my stomach churn, made the anger in my chest burn hotter, brighter, more dangerous. I couldn't let her get away with it, couldn't let her move on, couldn't let her live this life while we were here, picking up the pieces of the one she'd shattered, trying to build something new without her. I decided to act, to do something, to make her pay for what she'd done, for what she was still doing. I wanted her to feel what we felt, to lose what we'd lost, to hurt the way we hurt. I thought about the recordings, the screenshots, the evidence I still had on the old phone, the one I'd brought with me, the one I kept hidden in my backpack, a reminder of her betrayal, a weapon I could use against her. I started researching, reading about how to make things go viral, how to spread information online, how to make sure everyone saw what I wanted them to see. I was good with computers, always had been, better than most kids my age, better than Mom ever knew. I knew I could do it, knew I could make her face the truth, make her lose everything, make her feel the weight of her lies. I created a fake account, using a name Mom wouldn't recognize, a random string of letters and numbers that wouldn't lead back to me. I started posting the evidence online, tagging her in every post, making sure her friends, her followers, everyone she knew would see it, would know what she'd done. I posted the recordings, the messages, the screenshots, everything I had, everything that proved she'd abandoned her kids, that she'd left us alone while she went off with men, paying them, taking their money, living a life she didn't deserve. I wrote captions, calling her out, telling the world she'd chosen strangers over her own children, that she'd lied to us, betrayed us, left us to fend for ourselves while she chased her own happiness. I watched the posts spread, the comments piling up, people calling her names, unfollowing her, turning on her, their words harsh, unforgiving, exactly what I wanted. I saw her try to defend herself, posting long explanations, saying it wasn't true, that she'd been set up, that someone was trying to ruin her life, but no one believed her, no one cared. The proof was too clear, too real, too undeniable. I watched her life unravel, piece by piece, post by post, comment by comment, and I didn't feel guilty, didn't feel sorry for her, didn't feel anything but that cold satisfaction, that sense of justice, that knowledge that she was finally paying for what she'd done. I found out through a mutual friend, someone who still followed her, that she'd lost her job at the diner, her boss saying he couldn't have someone like her working there, that customers were complaining, that her reputation was bad for business. I saw her posts get quieter, her pictures disappearing, her profile going private, but I didn't stop, didn't let up, didn't give her a chance to hide. I wanted her to feel trapped, to feel the weight of her choices, to know she couldn't run from this, couldn't escape what she'd done. I kept posting, kept tagging her, kept making sure everyone knew, everyone saw, everyone judged her the way I did, the way she deserved. The posts worked faster than I'd expected, spreading like wildfire across the internet, reaching people I didn't even know, people who'd never met Mom but hated her anyway, hated what she'd done, what she was. Within days, her social media was a mess, her followers dropping by the hundreds, her friends turning on her, their comments harsh, unforgiving, calling her a terrible mother, a liar, a disgrace. I saw messages from people she worked with, people she'd called friends, all of them shocked, disgusted, done with her, unfollowing her, blocking her, cutting her out of their lives. I kept the fake account active, posting more evidence, more recordings, more messages, making sure no one could ignore it, making sure no one could forget. I posted the audio of her with Dave, her voice flirty, talking about money, about meeting at the motel, about keeping things quiet. I posted the screenshots of her messages with Tony, with Chris, with Mark, all of them talking about money, about meeting up, about things I didn't want to think about but couldn't ignore. I wrote captions, long ones, detailed ones, explaining everything, telling the world how she'd left us alone, how she'd spent money we didn't have, how she'd chosen strangers over her own kids, over her own family. I watched the comments pile up, hundreds of them, thousands, people I didn't know calling her names, saying she didn't deserve to be a mother, saying she should be ashamed, saying they hoped she'd lose everything. I saw her try to fight back, posting long explanations, saying it wasn't true, that someone was out to get her, that she was being targeted, but no one believed her, no one cared. The proof was too clear, too real, too damning, and I'd made sure of that, had made sure there was no way out for her, no way to escape the truth. I found out she'd lost her job at the diner, her boss calling her into his office after the posts went viral, telling her he couldn't have someone like her working there, that customers were complaining, that her reputation was bad for business. I heard she'd tried to get another job, waitressing at a different place, but no one would hire her, not after what they'd seen online, not after the truth came out. I saw her posts stop, her pictures disappear, her profile go private, but I didn't stop, didn't let up, didn't give her a chance to hide. I kept posting, kept tagging her, kept making sure everyone knew, everyone saw, everyone judged her. I found out she'd moved out of our old apartment, unable to pay rent after losing her job, her savings gone, her life in pieces. She was staying with a friend, someone who hadn't turned on her yet, someone who didn't know the whole story, but I knew it wouldn't last, knew they'd find out, knew they'd kick her out too. I kept posting, kept spreading the truth, making sure she couldn't run, couldn't hide, couldn't pretend this wasn't happening. I saw her post one last time, a picture of her alone, her eyes red, her face tired, her hair messy, her smile gone. She wrote, "I'm sorry," just those 2 words, nothing else, and then her account went silent, her profile disappearing, her presence online gone. I didn't know where she was, didn't know what she was doing, didn't know if she was okay, but I didn't care, couldn't care, wouldn't let myself care. I'd done this, had made this happen, had made her pay for every lie, every night she left us, every dollar she spent on those men, every moment she chose them over us, over her own kids. I sat back in my chair, staring at the computer screen, the fake account still open, the comments still coming in, people still talking about her, still judging her, still hating her. I felt a cold satisfaction, a sense of justice, a sense of power, knowing I'd done this, knowing I'd made her hurt, made her lose everything, made her feel the weight of her choices. But it wasn't enough, not really, not deep down. I wanted more, wanted her to hurt more, wanted her to feel the same emptiness I felt, the same betrayal, the same loss. Grandma noticed I was spending a lot of time on the computer, her eyes narrowing as she watched me, but she didn't ask questions, didn't try to stop me. I think she knew, deep down, what I was doing, knew I was making Mom pay, knew I needed to do this, needed to see it through. She didn't stop me, didn't tell me to let it go, didn't tell me to forgive. She just kept taking care of us, making sure Lily and Tim were okay, making sure we had a home, a family, a life without Mom, a life where we could be safe, where we could be happy. I was grateful for her, more than I could say, more than I could ever show, but I couldn't stop what I'd started, couldn't let go of the anger, the need for revenge, the need to make Mom pay. I kept posting, kept watching, kept waiting for the next piece of her life to fall apart, for the next thing she'd lose, for the next consequence she'd face. I didn't know how far I'd go, didn't know when I'd stop, didn't know if I ever would, but I knew I couldn't stop now, couldn't let her win, couldn't let her move on. She had to pay, had to hurt, had to lose, just like we had, just like she'd made us. Months passed, and Mom disappeared completely, her online presence gone, her life in Chicago a memory I couldn't shake, a shadow that followed me even in Milwaukee. Grandma got full custody of us, the lawyer making sure Mom couldn't come back, couldn't try to take us, couldn't pretend she was still our mother, not that she tried, not that she cared. Lily and Tim stopped asking about her, their memories of her fading, replaced by new ones with Grandma, with me, with the life we were building, the life we deserved. They laughed more now, played more, smiled more, their voices filling Grandma's house with a warmth I hadn't felt in years. Lily's drawings covered the walls, bright colors and happy faces, a stark contrast to the darkness I carried inside me. Tim's soccer games became the highlight of our weekends, his little legs running across the field, his smile wide as he scored, as he looked to me for approval. I smiled back, clapped for him, told him he was great, but inside, I was still burning, still hurting, still angry. I kept the old phone, the evidence still on it, a reminder of what I'd done, of what she'd done, of the life we'd left behind. I'd ruined her, had made her lose everything, her friends, her job, her home, her reputation, her life. I'd posted everything, had made sure the world knew, had made sure she couldn't escape the truth, couldn't run from what she'd done. I'd heard through a friend of a friend that she was broke, living on the streets for a while, begging for money, her life in pieces, her happiness gone. I'd done that, had made that happen, had made her pay for every lie, every night she left us, every dollar she spent on those men, every moment she chose them over us, over her own kids. I thought I'd feel better, thought the anger would go away, thought I'd feel some kind of peace, some kind of closure, but I didn't, couldn't, wouldn't. The anger was still there, a quiet burn in my chest, a weight I couldn't shake, a fire that wouldn't go out. I'd gotten my revenge, had made her hurt, had made her lose, but it didn't fix anything, didn't bring back the mom I thought she was, didn't erase the nights we'd spent alone, didn't make me trust again, didn't make me whole. I looked at Lily and Tim, laughing in the backyard, playing with a soccer ball Grandma had bought them, their faces bright, their eyes full of joy, and I felt a pang of guilt, a sharp stab in my chest that I couldn't ignore. I'd protected them, had kept them safe, had made sure they'd never feel that betrayal again, but I'd also taken their mom away, had made sure they'd never see her, never know her, never have the chance to forgive her, to love her again. I wondered if I'd gone too far, if I'd let my anger take too much, if I'd destroyed more than I'd meant to, more than I'd needed to. But then I'd remember her laughter on the recordings, her lies, her betrayal, the way she'd left us, the way she'd chosen them, and the guilt would fade, replaced by that same cold satisfaction, that same sense of justice, that same need to make her pay. She'd deserved it, had brought it on herself, had made her choice, and I'd made mine. I sat on the porch, watching the sunset, the sky turning orange over Milwaukee, the air cool, the world quiet. I thought about Chicago, about the life we'd left behind, about the mom I'd never see again, the mom I didn't want to see, didn't want to know. I didn't know if she'd ever try to come back, if she'd ever try to fix what she'd broken, if she'd ever realize what she'd lost, but I knew I wouldn't let her, knew I'd never let her near us again, near Lily, near Tim, near the life we'd built without her. I'd protect them, no matter what, no matter who I had to hurt, no matter what I had to do. I'd gotten my revenge, had made her pay, had made her lose, and it was enough, had to be enough, even if it didn't feel like it, even if it left me empty, even if it left me cold. I stood up, walking inside to join my siblings, their laughter pulling me back, grounding me, reminding me why I'd done this, why I'd fought, why I'd won. I left the past behind me, one step at a time, one day at a time, knowing I'd never be the same, knowing I'd never forget, but knowing I'd done what I had to, for them, for us, for me.